He found a crying baby in the alley behind his tavern. The moment he picked her up, her dangerous magic finally stopped. What he didn't know, the baby's mother was the Witch Queen, and she just made him the most important person in two warring realms. The rain came down like nails. Rowan shouldered through the back door of the Silver Ladle, garbage bag in one hand, his apron soaked through from a 12-hour shift. His feet ached. His back screamed. And old Merrick still hadn't paid him for last week. "Just get through tonight," he muttered, heaving the bag toward the rusted bins in the alley. That's when he heard it.
A cry.
Thin and desperate, barely audible over the storm. Rowan froze. The alley was empty, just broken crates and puddles reflecting the tavern's dim lamplight. He should go inside, lock the door, mind his own business like everyone else in Brindlemark did. But the cry came again, weaker this time. His chest tightened. He moved toward the sound, boots splashing through the mud, until he reached the corner where the old stone wall met the tavern's foundation. There, tucked beneath a rotting plank, was a bundle wrapped in dark fabric. Rowan knelt, rain streaming down his face, and pulled back the cloth. A baby. She couldn't have been more than a few months old. Her skin was pale as moonlight, her tiny fists clenched, and her breathing, gods, her breathing was all wrong. Shallow and stuttering, like she was drowning on dry land.
Hey.
"Hey, it's okay," Rowan whispered, his hands shaking as he scooped her up. She was so small, so fragile. "I've got you." The moment his arms wrapped around her, something happened. Purple sparks erupted from her fingers, crackling, unstable, like lightning trying to escape a bottle. Rowan flinched, but didn't let go. The sparks danced across his skin, not burning, but tingling, electric and strange. And then the baby stopped crying. Her breathing evened out. The sparks dimmed, flickering once, twice, then fading into nothing. She looked up at him with wide, unfocused eyes, pale violet, too bright to be human. Rowan's heart hammered.
What?
"What are you?" The fabric she'd been wrapped in slipped, revealing intricate embroidery along the edges.
Runes.
Glowing faint silver in the dark, pulsing in rhythm with a baby's breath. Magic. This was a witch child. Panic shot through him. Brindlemark was a border town, neutral ground between human territory and the witch realm. People didn't talk about witches here. They certainly didn't touch them. And they sure as hell didn't pick up their abandoned babies in back alleys.
Okay.
Okay. Rowan stood, cradling her carefully. "I'll take you to the church." Or, no, the magistrate. Someone who knows what to do with. The sky tore open. It wasn't thunder. It wasn't lightning. It was a rip, a jagged wound of crackling blue light that split the storm clouds like fabric. Wind roared through the alley, sending crates tumbling, and the air itself seemed to scream. Rowan stumbled back against the wall, shielding the baby with his body. A figure stepped through the tear. She was tall, wrapped in midnight robes that moved like living smoke. Her hair was black as ink, braided with silver thread, and her eyes, cold, blazing gold, locked onto Rowan with the force of a blade. Behind her, 3 more figures emerged, armored, hooded, their hands glowing with restrained magic. The woman descended, boots touching the muddy ground without a sound. The storm seemed to bend around her, rain evaporating before it reached her skin. "You," she said, her voice cutting through the wind. "Human. Step away from the child." Rowan's legs went numb. He knew who she was. Everyone in Brindlemark knew the stories.
Morgalla.
The Witch Queen. I didn't, his voice cracked. "I found her. She was abandoned. I was just—" Silence. Morgalla moved closer, her gaze dropping to the baby in his arms. Her expression shifted, just for a moment, from fury to something raw. Relief.
Fear.
Alara. The baby stirred, her tiny hand gripping Rowan's shirt. Morgalla's eyes snapped back to him, blazing. "How dare you?" How dare you lay your filthy human hands on? She stopped. The baby had started to cry again. And the moment she did, purple sparks flared from her fingers, wild, violent, crackling across Rowan's chest. He gasped, but held on, instinct overriding fear. It's okay, he murmured, rocking her gently. You're okay. I've got you. The sparks stopped. The baby's magic settled, fading back into her skin like it had never been there at all. Her crying softened into hiccups, then silence. Morgella stood frozen. One of the guards stepped forward. Your Majesty, we should. Wait. Morgella's voice was barely a whisper. She stared at Rowan, at the baby, at the way the child's fingers curled into his shirt, the way her breathing had evened out, the way the dangerous, unstable magic that had plagued her since birth had simply obeyed. That's impossible, Morgella breathed. Rowan swallowed hard. I don't understand what's happening. I just found her. I swear. Morgella's jaw tightened. She took a step closer, then another, until she was close enough to reach out. Give her to me. Rowan hesitated, then carefully extended the baby toward her. The moment Morgella's hands touched her daughter, the sparks returned, violent, uncontrolled, tearing across the queen's arms like wildfire. Morgella gritted her teeth, holding on, but the baby screamed, thrashing, her magic spiraling. Your Majesty, one of the guards shouted. Rowan didn't think. He pulled the baby back into his arms.
Instant calme.
The sparks vanished. The baby quieted, pressing her face against his chest. Silence fell over the alley, broken only by the rain. Morgella stared at him, gold eyes wide, her hands still trembling.
You.
A human. I don't know what I did, Rowan said quickly. I don't know anything about magic. I'm just a waiter.
I'm nobody.
You calmed her, Morgella interrupted, her voice shaking.
No witch. No healer.
No spellcaster in my entire realm has ever been able to calm her magic. She looked at him like he was a ghost. A miracle. A threat. Only you. Rowan's stomach dropped. What does that mean? Morgella straightened, her composure snapping back into place like armor. It means, human, that you're coming with me. Wait, no, I can't. Now, her tone left no room for argument. She gestured to the guards. Restrain him if necessary, but do not separate him from the child. The guards moved forward. Rowan backed up, heart racing. Please, I didn't do anything wrong. I know, Morgella's expression softened, just slightly. But if you let go of her now, she will die. And I cannot allow that. The baby's hand tightened on his shirt. Rowan looked down at her. At those wide, violet eyes staring up at him with something that looked almost like trust. He took a shaking breath. Okay, I'll come. Just don't hurt her. I have no intention of hurting my daughter, Morgella said quietly. But understand this, human. You are now bound to her survival. Until we determine why your touch stabilizes her magic, you belong to the witch realm. The guards closed in. One of them placed a hand on Rowan's shoulder. Not rough, but firm. Morgella turned toward the portal, her robes billowing. Bring him through. Rowan glanced back at the silver ladle, at the life he knew, the life that was ordinary and safe and his. Then the baby cooed softly in his arms. And he stepped forward into the light. The portal spat them out into chaos. Rowan stumbled, his boots hitting polished marble instead of mud. The baby clutched his shirt tighter as he caught his balance, blinking against the sudden brightness. They were in a hall. Massive. The ceiling soared overhead, held up by columns of black stone that seemed to pulse with inner light. Torches floated in midair without chains, casting shadows that moved against the walls like living things. And witches. Dozens of them. All staring. Your Majesty. A woman in deep crimson robes rushed forward, her face pale with relief. You found her. Thank the gods, you found. She stopped dead when she saw Rowan. Why, she said slowly, Is there a human holding the princess? Murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd. Rowan felt their eyes on him, hostile, confused, burning with suspicion. Morgana swept past him. Clear the hall. I want healers in the East Wing.
Now.
But your majesty. Now, Seraphine. The woman in red hesitated, then bowed sharply and began barking orders. Witches scattered, but not before shooting Rowan looks that made his skin crawl. One of the guards, a tall man with scars across his jaw, leaned close to Rowan's ear. Don't run. Don't speak unless spoken to. And whatever you do, don't drop that child. I wasn't planning on it, Rowan muttered. They moved through corridor after corridor, each more elaborate than the last. Tapestries showed battles fought with lightning and fire. Statues depicted witches with crowns of thorns and eyes of stone. Everything here screamed power. And Rowan was just a waiter from Brindlemark who couldn't even afford new boots. They entered a chamber lined with strange instruments, crystals suspended in glass, books floating above pedestals, and a table carved from a single piece of obsidian. 3 figures waited inside, dressed in healer's whites. Lay her down, the oldest one commanded, gesturing to the table. Rowan looked at Morgana. She nodded. He moved forward carefully, lowering the baby onto the smooth black surface. The moment he let go, she began to whimper. Step back, human, one of the healers said. Rowan obeyed, heart pounding. The healers circled the baby, their hands glowing with soft green light. They murmured in a language Rowan didn't recognize, tracing patterns in the air above her tiny body. The baby's whimpers turned to cries. Then screams. Purple sparks erupted from her fingers, shooting across the table like lightning. One of the healers jerked back with a curse as the magic singed a sleeve. The crystals in the room began to crack, hairline fractures spreading through the glass. Restrain her magic, the oldest healer shouted. I'm trying, another one yelled. It's not. Gods, it's not responding. The baby thrashed, her screams tearing through the chamber. Magic poured off her in waves, wild and destructive, and the obsidian table began to splinter. Morgana's face went white. Do something. We can't. She's rejecting every stabilization spell Rowan didn't wait. He pushed past the healers and scooped the baby back into his arms. Silence. The sparks vanished. The magic stopped. The baby's screams faded into soft hiccups as she pressed her face against his chest, tiny fingers gripping his shirt like a lifeline. The healers stared. What the oldest one breathed. What did you do? Nothing, Rowan said, his voice shaking. I picked her up. That's impossible, one of the younger healers whispered. No one can calm unstable witch magic with touch alone. It requires spells, binding circles, years of training. And yet, Morgana said quietly, he did it. Twice now. The oldest healer stepped closer, studying Rowan like he was a puzzle. Your Majesty, this is unprecedented. A human stabilizing royal witch blood? It defies every law of magic we know. Then perhaps, Morgana said, her voice cold, our laws are incomplete. She turned to Rowan. What is your name? Rowan. Rowan Thorn. And you have no magical training?
No witch ancestry. None.
I work at a tavern. I serve drinks and clean tables. That's it. Morgana studied him for a long moment. You understand what this means, don't you? My daughter's magic has been unstable since birth. Every healer, every spellweaver in my realm has tried to help her. All have failed, she paused. Until you. Rowan looked down at the baby, who had fallen asleep in his arms. She looked peaceful now. Safe. I don't understand why, he said softly. Neither do I, Morgana's jaw tightened. But until we do, you cannot leave. If you are the only one who can keep her alive, she met his eyes. Then you stay. The scarred guard from earlier stepped forward. Your Majesty, the council will never allow this. A human with this much influence over the princess? They'll call it a threat to the crown. Let them try, Morgana's voice was steel. My daughter's life comes before politics. They'll say he bewitched her, that he's using dark magic to control her. Then they're fools. The guard's expression darkened. With respect, Your Majesty, this human is now the most dangerous person in the witch realm, whether he means to be or not. Rowan's blood ran cold. I'm not dangerous. I'm not trying to control anyone. I just want to help. Your intentions don't matter, the guard said flatly. Only the power you hold. Morgalla raised a hand for silence. Enough. Rowan Thorne, you will be given quarters in the palace. You will be under guard at all times. And you will help us understand this connection. She gestured to the baby. Until then, my daughter stays with you. Rowan's head spun. For how long? As long as it takes, Morgalla turned away. Or until she no longer needs you. She left without another word, her robes trailing behind her like shadows. The healers filed out after her, whispering among themselves. The scarred guard remained, his expression unreadable. Follow me, human. Your new life begins now. Rowan looked down at the sleeping baby in his arms. He'd gone from waiter to prisoner in the span of an hour. And somehow, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. Rowan barely slept. They'd given him a room, if you could call it that. Stone walls, a narrow bed, and a single window that looked out onto a courtyard filled with plants he'd never seen before. Some glowed. Others moved without wind. The baby, Alara, he reminded himself, slept in a carved wooden cradle beside him. Every time she stirred, purple sparks would flicker across her fingers, and Rowan would reach over to touch her hand. The sparks would fade. She'd settle. He did this 17 times before dawn. When morning came, the scarred guard appeared at his door. The queen wants you in the examination chamber. Bring the princess. Rowan lifted Alara carefully, wrapping her in the embroidered blanket. She blinked up at him with those strange violet eyes, and something in his chest tightened. Let's go meet more people who don't trust me, he murmured to her. Fun. The examination chamber was different from the healing room. This one was circular, with symbols carved into the floor that glowed faint blue. 5 witches stood around the perimeter. Researchers, by the look of their ink-stained robes and tired eyes. Morgalla stood at the center, arms crossed. Begin. The researchers moved forward cautiously. One held a crystal that pulsed with soft light. We'll need to take readings while you're holding her, she explained to Rowan. Don't be alarmed by the scans. Easy for you to say, Rowan muttered. The crystal brightened, and thin beams of light washed over both him and Alara. The baby cooed, reaching for the light with chubby fingers. Fascinating, one researcher breathed. Her magical signature is completely stable. No fluctuations at all. Impossible, another said. Yesterday her readings were catastrophic. Look, he held up a scroll covered in jagged, violent lines. This was her pattern when we first examined her. Like a storm trying to tear itself apart. And now? Morgalla asked. The first researcher held up her crystal. The light inside pulsed steady and calm. Perfect harmony. As long as the human touches her. What happens when he doesn't? Morgalla's voice was sharp. The researcher hesitated. We'd need to test. No, Rowan's arms tightened around Alara. You saw what happened yesterday. I'm not putting her through that again. Morgalla's eyes narrowed. You forget your position, human. You don't make demands here. I'm not demanding. I'm asking. Rowan met her gaze, surprised by his own boldness. She's a baby. She's scared. And every time someone takes her from me, she suffers.
So no, we're not testing that.
Silence filled the chamber. The researchers exchanged nervous glances. The scarred guard's hand moved to his weapon. Then Morgalla did something unexpected. She smiled. Just slightly. Very well. We'll proceed differently. She stepped closer, studying Alara with an expression Rowan couldn't quite read. May I touch her? While you're holding her. Rowan nodded. Morgalla reached out slowly, her fingers brushing Alara's cheek. The baby turned toward her mother's touch, making a soft sound.
No sparks.
No pain. Morgula's breath caught.
She's
calm. She feels safe, Rowan said quietly. Maybe that's what matters. Magic doesn't work on feelings, one of the researchers scoffed. Doesn't it? Another countered. Ancient texts speak of emotional anchoring, bonds that stabilize wild magic through trust and fairy tales, the first one interrupted. Are you suggesting, Morgalla said coldly, that my daughter has bonded with a human stranger over her own mother? The room went deathly quiet. Rowan felt the weight of that question, the pain beneath it. I don't think it's about choosing, he said carefully. I think maybe I'm just different enough that her magic doesn't know how to react to me. So it stays quiet. You're human, Morgalla said. You have no magic at all. Exactly. Maybe that's why Rowan looked down at Alara, who was playing with his fingers. She doesn't have to fight anything when I hold her. There's nothing to push against. One of the researchers gasped. A null-point anchor. Gods, that's it. Humans don't have magical signatures, so they create a kind of
void.
A space where unstable magic can rest. But that still doesn't explain the bond, another argued. Plenty of humans exist. Why only him? Maybe timing, Rowan suggested. I was the first person who held her when she was completely terrified and alone. Maybe that stuck. Morgalla turned away, her shoulders tense. If this theory is correct, then my daughter's survival depends on a human who could leave at any moment. Who could be killed, kidnapped, or simply decide we're not worth the trouble. I won't leave, Rowan said. You say that now. I mean it, he shifted Alara in his arms. Look, I don't understand magic. I don't understand any of this. But I understand that this baby needs help, and apparently I'm the only one who can give it. So I'm staying. Morgalla looked at him for a long moment. You'd give up your freedom? Your life in the human realm? Rowan thought of the silver ladle, of old Merrick shouting and the endless shifts and the tiny room he rented above the butcher shop, of a life where nothing ever changed and nobody ever cared if he existed. He looked down at Alara, who smiled at him, actually smiled like he was the most important person in her tiny world. Yeah, he said softly. I would. Something flickered across Morgulla's face. Respect, maybe. Or something close to it. Then understand this, Rowan Thorne. You are now responsible for the future of the Witch Realm. The heir to the throne depends on you. Her voice hardened. And if anything happens to her while in your care, your life is forfeit. Rowan's throat went dry. Understood. Good, Morgalla gestured to the guards. Show him the palace. He needs to learn his way around. And someone fetch him proper clothes. He looks like a drowned rat. As they let him out, Alara grabbed his thumb and held on tight. Rowan realized his hands had stopped shaking. For the first time since this began, he felt like maybe, just maybe, he could do this. The council chamber made Rowan feel like an insect under glass. 7 witches sat in high-backed chairs arranged in a semicircle, each one radiating power that made his skin prickle. Morgalla occupied the tallest chair at the center, her expression carved from ice. Rowan stood in the middle of the floor, Alara asleep in his arms, while the council stared at him like he was a disease. This is madness, declared a thin witch with silver hair pulled back so tightly her face looked skeletal. You expect us to accept that our future queen's life depends on a human. I expect you to accept reality, Counselor Vex, Morgalla replied coolly. The facts are undeniable. Without Rowan Thorne, Princess Alara's magic will kill her. Then we find another solution. A broad-shouldered witch slammed his fist on the armrest. Bind her magic. Seal it until she's old enough to control it herself. We tried that, Counselor Drace, one of the healers said from the side of the room. 7 different binding spells. Her magic tore through all of them. She's too powerful and too unstable. Because she's defective, Vex spat. The child should never have been born with such volatile. Careful, Morgulla's voice dropped to a whisper, but it cut through the chamber like a blade. That is your princess you're speaking of. Vex's jaw tightened, but she bowed her head. My apologies, Your Majesty. I only meant. I know what you meant. Morgala's fingers drummed against her chair. Does anyone have a useful suggestion? Remove the human from the equation entirely, said a younger witch with gold rings through her eyebrow. If the bond formed through proximity, perhaps distance will break it. Send him away, and eventually the princess will adapt. Or die, Rowan said quietly. Every eye turned to him. You weren't given permission to speak, Vex hissed. I don't care. Rowan's arms tightened protectively around Alara. You're talking about gambling with a baby's life because you're uncomfortable with me being here. That's not a solution. That's cowardice. Drace rose from his chair, magic crackling around his fists. How dare you? Sit down, Drace. Morgalla didn't raise her voice, but the command was absolute. The witch sat, though fury burned in his eyes. The human speaks truth, however impertinent. We cannot risk Alara's life on theories. Then what do you propose? Vex demanded. We allow this outsider unlimited access to the air? Let him whisper in her ear as she grows? Give him influence over the next Witch Queen? He's not trying to influence anyone, Morgalla said. He's keeping her alive. For now, the gold-ringed witch leaned forward. But what about next month? Next year? What happens when he realizes the power he holds? When he understands that the entire witch realm bends to his presence because without him, our princess dies? Rowan felt sick. I would never. Your intentions are irrelevant, Vex interrupted. The council must consider all possibilities. You are human. Humans are ambitious, greedy, and short-lived. What's to stop you from demanding wealth? Territory? A seat of power? My word, Rowan said flatly. Which apparently means nothing to you, because we don't know you. Drace roared. You appeared from nowhere, and now you hold the future of our realm in your arms. Forgive us for being suspicious. Enough, Morgalla stood, and the chamber fell silent. Rowan Thorn will remain in the palace under guard. His movements will be monitored, his interactions recorded. If he shows any sign of manipulation or deception, he will be dealt with accordingly. She looked at Rowan. Is that acceptable? Do I have a choice? No. Then it's acceptable. Vex stood sharply. Your Majesty, I must protest in the strongest. A door at the back of the chamber burst open. A guard stumbled in, his armor scorched, blood running from a cut above his eye. Your Majesty, the border. There's been an attack. Morgalla went rigid. Where? The eastern villages. Human forces. They crossed into our territory an hour ago, the guard swayed, catching himself against the wall. They're saying they've come to rescue the human you kidnapped. Rowan's blood turned to ice. What? The news spread fast in Brindlemark, the guard continued. A human waiter taken by the Witch Queen. The mayor mobilized the militia. They're calling it an act of war. Those fools, Morgalla breathed. They'll start a conflict that will consume both realms. Your Majesty, Vex said, her voice tight with barely concealed satisfaction. This is precisely what I warned you about. This human's presence has already destabilized the peace. Send him back before more blood is spilled. If we send him back, the princess dies, Morgalla snapped. Better one life than thousands. She's not just one life, she's the heir. The council erupted into shouting. Rowan stood frozen in the center of it all, Alara stirring in his arms. This was his fault. People were fighting because of him. Dying because he'd picked up a baby in an alley.
Stop, he said.
No one heard him. Stop. The chamber went silent. Alara began to cry, and purple sparks flickered across her tiny fists. Rowan rocked her gently, his voice shaking. I'll go back. I'll tell them it was a misunderstanding, that I came willingly. I'll fix this. And when you're gone? Morgalla asked quietly. When my daughter's magic tears her apart? I don't know. Rowan's voice cracked. But I can't let people die because of me. I can't. You won't have to. Everyone turned to look at Morgalla. She descended from her chair, moving toward Rowan with purpose. I will go to Brindlemark myself. I will speak with your leaders and end this foolish escalation. She looked at her council. And while I'm gone, Rowan Thorn remains under the protection of the crown. Anyone who touches him answers to me personally. Your Majesty, Drace protested, you can't leave the realm now. Not with tensions this high. I can and I will. Morgula's eyes blazed. Because if I don't, we'll have a war neither side can afford. And that is something I will not allow. She looked at Rowan one last time, her expression unreadable. Keep her safe. Then she swept from the chamber, leaving Rowan alone with a council that looked ready to tear him apart. 3 days after Morgalla left for Brindlemark, Rowan's hands started glowing. It happened while he was feeding Alara, or trying to. The palace kitchen had prepared something that looked like porridge, but shimmered with flecks of silver. Alara kept spitting it out, making faces that would have been funny if Rowan wasn't so exhausted. Come on, he coaxed. Just one more bite. She grabbed his thumb instead, and that's when he saw it. Faint purple light, tracing the lines of his veins beneath his skin. Just for a second, then gone. Rowan set down the spoon, his heart hammering. That's not normal. What isn't? The guard stationed at his door, a younger witch named Kale, stepped into the room. Nothing. Rowan pulled his sleeve down quickly. Just talking to myself. Kale studied him with narrow eyes. You look terrible. When's the last time you slept? I don't know. Tuesday. It's Thursday. Rowan rubbed his face. That explains a lot. But sleep was impossible. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt it, a tingling that crawled through his arms, up his spine, into his skull. Like electricity trying to find a way out. And the dreams. Gods, the dreams. Visions of storms and lightning, of power tearing through stone, of magic that wanted to break things. Alara's magic, bleeding into him somehow. By the 5th day, he couldn't hide it anymore. He was walking through the palace gardens. Kale had insisted he needed fresh air, when his vision doubled. The world tilted sideways, and he stumbled, catching himself against a pillar. Rowan. Kale grabbed his arm. What's wrong?
Ivy fine.
Just dizzy. You're lying. Kale's grip tightened. Your eyes, they're glowing. What? Purple. Like the princess's magic, Kale pulled him toward a fountain, forcing him to look at his reflection. Rowan's breath stopped. His eyes weren't brown anymore. They flickered with violet light, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. This isn't happening, he whispered. We need to get you to the healers. A scream cut through the gardens. High-pitched, terrified, echoing from inside the palace. Rowan knew that voice. Alara. He ran. His legs felt wrong, too light, too fast, like gravity had loosened its grip. He burst through the palace doors, taking stairs 3 at a time, following the sound of chaos. The throne room. Morgalla had returned from Brindlemark and called a ceremony to announce the peace treaty. Half the court was assembled, dressed in formal robes, and at the center, Alara, in the arms of a palace nursemaid, screaming. Purple lightning arced from the baby's body, striking marble columns and shattering them like glass. The nursemaid dropped her, scrambling backward in terror. Alara hit the floor, magic exploding outward in waves. Get back, Morgalla shouted, throwing up a shield that crackled under the assault. Witches scattered. Some tried casting containment spells, but Alara's magic tore through them like paper. The floor cracked. Tapestries burst into flames. She's going to bring down the palace, someone screamed. Rowan didn't think. He shoved through the fleeing crowd, ignoring Kale's shout behind him, and threw himself forward. He landed beside Alara, scooping her up as lightning struck the spot where he'd been standing. The baby thrashed in his arms, her magic wild and agonized, burning against his skin. It hurt, gods, it hurt, but Rowan held on. It's okay, he gasped. I'm here. You're safe. The magic didn't stop. It poured into him instead, flooding through his body like ice water and fire combined. Rowan screamed, falling to his knees, but he didn't let go. "Hold on," he choked out. "Please, Alara. Hold on." Something inside him shifted. The tingling he'd felt for days suddenly crystallized, becoming sharp and clear. He felt Alara's magic like a living thing, terrified, confused, trying desperately to protect itself the only way it knew how. By destroying everything around it. "You're scared," Rowan whispered. I know, but I've got you." He closed his eyes and imagined the feeling he got when he held her late at night, that sense of calm, of safety, of someone being there when the dark got too heavy. He pushed that feeling outward. The lightning stopped. Silence fell over the throne room, broken only by the crackle of dying flames. Rowan opened his eyes. Alara stared up at him, tears streaming down her tiny face, her magic finally, completely still. Around them, the court stood frozen in shock. Morgalla moved first, crossing the destroyed floor until she stood over Rowan. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "What did you do?" she breathed. Rowan looked down at his arms. The purple glow was still there, visible through his skin, pulsing with the same rhythm as Alara's breathing. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I think her magic is inside me now. Part of it, anyway." "That's impossible," one of the healers whispered from behind a pillar. "Humans can't carry witch magic. It would kill them." "Maybe it is killing me," Rowan said quietly. "But she's alive. That's what matters." Morgalla knelt beside him, her eyes searching his face. "You saved her life. Again." "She's just a baby," Rowan's voice cracked. "She shouldn't have to go through this alone." For a long moment, Morgalla said nothing. Then she reached out and touched his shoulder, a gesture so simple, so human, that it made Rowan's throat tighten. "You're not what I expected," she said softly. "Yeah," well, Rowan managed a weak smile. "I wasn't expecting any of this either." Morgalla stood, addressing the assembled court. "Let it be known, Rowan Thorn is under the Crown's protection. Anyone who questions his place here questions me directly." She looked down at him one more time, something like gratitude flickering in her golden eyes.
Come.
"We need to understand what's happening to you before it's too late." Rowan struggled to his feet, Alara clutching his shirt, and followed the Witch Queen deeper into the palace. Behind them, Counselor Vex watched from the shadows, her expression calculating and cold. The headaches started that night. Rowan woke in darkness, his skull splitting, purple light dancing behind his eyelids. He pressed his palms against his temples, biting back a groan. Alara slept peacefully in her cradle beside him, oblivious to his pain. The healers had warned him. The magic is foreign to your body. It will cause side effects, fatigue, pain, sensory disruption. We don't know how long a human can sustain this. "How long do I have?" Rowan had asked. They wouldn't answer. He forced himself out of bed, stumbling to the window. Dawn was breaking over the witch realm, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. It was beautiful. Alien. Nothing like home. Home. Rowan wondered if he even had one anymore. A knock at the door. Kale entered, looking grim. "The Queen wants to see you."
"Now."
Morgalla wasn't in the throne room. She stood in a private study, maps spread across a massive table, her jaw tight with tension. "We have a problem," she said without preamble. Scouts reported movement at the southern border. Human forces. Not militia this time, witch hunters. Rowan's stomach dropped. "How many?" "Enough," Morgalla pointed to marks on the map. "They're using the peace talks as cover. While I was in Brindlemark negotiating, they were preparing an assault." "On what?" Morgalla's eyes met his. "On Alara. They believe a disabled witch child is vulnerable. A prize they can steal and use as leverage against us." Horror washed over him. "They want to kidnap her? Or kill her?" Morgalla's voice was ice. "Either outcome serves their purpose, weakening the witch realm by eliminating the heir. We need to move her somewhere safer." "There is nowhere safer than the palace." It's protected by centuries of defensive spells. Morgalla circled the table. But those spells only work against magical attacks. Witch hunters use iron weapons, blessed silver, tools designed to cut through magic like paper. So, what do? We prepare for war. Morgalla looked at him seriously. And you stay inside the palace walls. No exceptions. Rowan nodded, but unease crawled up his spine. 2 days later, he broke the rule. He didn't mean to. Alara had been fussy all morning, crying despite his best efforts. The healers suggested fresh air might help. The gardens had plants that naturally soothed magical distress. Kale protested, but Rowan was desperate. Just for a few minutes. The gardens are still inside the palace grounds. They went at sunset, when the flowers glowed with bioluminescence. Alara calmed immediately, reaching for the floating lights with wonder in her eyes. Rowan felt the knot in his chest loosen.
See?
Sometimes simple things work best. Kale remained tense, hand on his weapon. 5 minutes. Then we're going back. That's when the first arrow struck. It hit the ground between Rowan's feet, iron-tipped, wrapped in silver wire. Kale shoved him backward as 3 more arrows whistled through the air. Run! Kale threw up a shield spell, deflecting the projectiles. Get to the palace. Rowan sprinted, clutching Alara to his chest. Behind him, he heard shouting, the clash of steel, Kale's voice barking orders to other guards. He didn't make it 10 steps before they appeared. 4 men in leather armor, faces hidden behind iron masks, emerged from the shadows. Witch hunters. They moved with brutal efficiency, cutting off his escape route. The human and the abomination. One rasped. Hand her over. No, Rowan backed up, his mind racing. She's just a baby. She hasn't done anything to you. She's a witch. The hunter drew a blade that gleamed with dark runes. Better to end her now before she grows into a monster. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. They attacked. Rowan had never been in a real fight in his life. He dodged clumsily, taking a blow to his ribs that drove the air from his lungs. Another hunter grabbed his arm, trying to pry Alara away.
No.
Purple light exploded from Rowan's hands.
He didn't know how.
Didn't understand it. But Alara's magic, the power that had been bleeding into him for days, suddenly responded. A wave of energy blasted outward, sending the hunters flying. They hit the ground hard, armor smoking. Rowan stared at his hands, trembling. What? Alara began to cry. And her magic awakened. But this time, it didn't lash out chaotically. It moved with purpose, creating a shimmering barrier around both of them, a dome of purple light that crackled with protective fury. The hunters scrambled to their feet, raising weapons. The barrier held. One hunter swung his sword at it. The blade shattered on impact, and the man was thrown backward by the recoil. Impossible, another breathed. The human is shielding her. He's using her magic. Kill him first, then. They charged again. Rowan closed his eyes, instinct taking over. He felt Alara's magic like a second heartbeat, wild and powerful, and his somehow. He pushed it outward again, harder this time. Lightning arced from the barrier, striking the hunters. They convulsed, screaming, collapsing one by one. Then everything went silent. Rowan opened his eyes. The hunters lay unconscious, not dead. He could see them breathing, scattered across the garden like broken toys. The barrier flickered and faded. He looked down at Alara. She stared up at him with those violet eyes, utterly calm, as if she'd known all along he could protect her. You, Rowan's voice shook. You gave me your power. Footsteps. Rowan spun, raising his glowing hands defensively. Morgalla stopped at the edge of the garden, her eyes wide with shock. Behind her, Kale and a dozen guards stared at the scene, at the unconscious hunters, the scorched ground, and Rowan standing in the center of it all, crackling with purple lightning. What happened here? Morgalla demanded. They tried to take her. Rowan's legs nearly gave out. I didn't know I could. You wielded her magic, Morgula's voice was barely a whisper. A human. Wielding. Royal. Witch. Magic. I had to. They were going to kill us. Morgalla moved closer, studying him with an expression caught between awe and fear. Do you understand what this means? Humans can't channel magic. It's biologically impossible. Yet you just, she gestured at the destruction, proved every law of nature wrong. Rowan swayed, suddenly exhausted beyond measure. The purple glow faded from his skin, and pain crashed over him like a wave. Your Majesty, Kale said urgently. More hunters could be nearby. We need to get them inside. Morgalla nodded sharply. Take him to the healers. And double the palace guards. No one gets in or out without my permission. As guards surrounded him, Rowan looked at the unconscious hunters one last time. He'd protected Alara. But he'd also become something he didn't understand. Something that might be more dangerous than any of them realized. The council convened at midnight. Rowan wasn't allowed inside. Guards stationed him in an antechamber where he could hear every word through the heavy doors. Alara slept in his arms, exhausted from the attack, while purple bruises bloomed across his ribs. This has gone too far. Counselor Vex's voice rang through the chamber. The human just wielded royal magic. Do you understand the implications? I understand he saved my daughter's life, Morgalla replied coldly. By becoming a weapon, Drace roared. A human weapon bonded to our heir. What happens when he realizes he can access her power at will? What's to stop him from using it against us? Rowan would never.
You don't know that.
Vex interrupted. Your Majesty, I have served this realm for 60 years. I have never seen anything like this. A human channeling witch magic is an abomination. An impossibility that shouldn't exist. And yet it does, Morgalla said. Because you allowed it. The gold-ringed counselor, Mira, spoke up. You let this bond deepen instead of severing it immediately. Now, the princess's magic recognizes him as a conduit, as a partner. That's not stability, Your Majesty. That's dependency. Rowan's chest tightened. He looked down at Alara, who stirred in her sleep. What would you have me do? Morgulla's voice was dangerous. Send him away? Let my daughter die. No, Vex's tone turned calculating. We take the princess somewhere safe. Somewhere distant, where the human cannot follow. We raise her in isolation, train her magic properly, break this unnatural bond before it's too late. Isolation. Morgulla's chair scraped against stone. You want to lock away a baby? I want to protect the heir from corruption. The witch hunters attacked because of him. His presence destabilizes both realms. Every day he remains, we risk more violence, more death. They attacked because they're cowards who prey on children. They attacked because they saw an opportunity. Drace slammed his fist down. And they'll keep attacking as long as the human remains. Your Majesty, please. Think of the realm. One life, even yours, even mine, is not worth thousands. Silence fell. Rowan pressed his forehead against the door, his hands shaking. They were going to take her. Take Alara away and lock her somewhere he could never reach. And she would suffer. Her magic would tear her apart, and no one would be there to stop it. There is another option, Mira said carefully. Speak. Bind the human's ability to channel magic. Sever his connection to the princess, while keeping him close enough to provide proximity comfort. He'd still stabilize her, but he couldn't access her power. Can that even be done? Morgalla asked. Theoretically. Though such a binding has never been attempted on a human before, the process might kill him. Rowan's blood went cold. And if he survives? Morgalla pressed. He'd be powerless. Helpless. At our mercy, Vex's satisfaction was audible, which is exactly where a human should be in the witch realm. More silence. Longer this time. Then Morgalla spoke, and her voice carried a weight Rowan had never heard before.
No.
Your Majesty. I said no, footsteps echoed. You want me to torture a man who has done nothing but protect my daughter? To cripple him out of fear? It's not torture, it's precaution. It's cowardice. Morgula's power flared, making the walls tremble. Every one of you sits in judgment of Rowan Thorn, yet not one of you lifted a finger to help Alara before he arrived. You called her defective.
Broken.
You suggested I hide her away, like some shameful secret. That's not fair. It's the truth, Morgana's voice cracked slightly. And then a human, a nobody from a border tavern, did what none of you could. He held my daughter when she was dying. He stayed when any sane person would have run. He took pain and exhaustion and physical corruption into his own body to keep her alive. Rowan closed his eyes, tears burning hot. So no, Morgana continued. I will not bind him. I will not send my daughter away. And I will not sacrifice either of them to ease your paranoia. Then you doom us all, Vex said quietly. Perhaps. But I will not become the kind of queen who throws away innocent lives for political convenience. A pause. Rowan Thorn stays. Under my direct protection. By ancient royal right, I claim him as guardian of the princess, a title that grants him full legal status in this realm. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Your Majesty, the council must approve such a title. The council serves at my pleasure, Morgana said icily. And I have made my decision. Anyone who challenges it challenges the crown itself. The doors burst open. Morgana stood in the entrance, her robes billowing, power crackling around her like a storm. Behind her, the council looked furious, except for Mira, who appeared thoughtful. Morgana's eyes found Rowan.
Come.
We're done here. He stood on shaking legs, following her through corridors until they reached a balcony overlooking the realm. The night sky glowed with distant magic, beautiful and terrible. You heard everything, Morgana said. Not a question. Yes. And you're still here. Rowan looked down at Alara, who'd woken and was watching him with those two knowing eyes. Where else would I go? Morgana turned to face him. For the first time since they'd met, she looked tired.
Human almost.
They're not wrong, you know, she said quietly. Your presence does complicate everything. Every day you stay, the danger grows. I know. You could die. The magic inside you could consume you from within. Or the council could move against you despite my protection. Or the witch hunters could return. She met his eyes. Why risk all of that? Rowan thought about the silver ladle. About his old life where nothing mattered and nobody cared. Then he looked at Alara, who smiled at him like he was her entire world. Because she's worth it, he said simply. Morgana stared at him for a long moment. Then, impossibly, she smiled, small, genuine, sad. My husband would have liked you, she said. He died before Alara was born. Never got to meet her.
I'm sorry.
So, Morgana looked out at her realm. But perhaps he sent you to us. Someone to protect what I cannot. She placed a hand on his shoulder, the same gesture she'd used before, but warmer now. More real. Welcome, Guardian Rowan Thorn. May you survive what comes next. 6 months changed everything. Rowan stood in the palace gardens, watching Alara take her first steps. She wobbled, arms outstretched, purple sparks dancing around her fingers like excited fireflies. Come on, he encouraged, kneeling with arms open. You can do it. She took 1 step.
2.
3, then tumbled forward with a squeal of delight. Rowan caught her, laughing as she grabbed his face with chubby hands. Well done, little spark. She's getting stronger, Morgana approached, dressed not in formal robes, but in simple traveling clothes. She'd been making regular trips to Brindlemark, building genuine peace between the realms. The healers say her magical signature is more stable than any royal child on record. Because she's not fighting it anymore, Rowan set Alara down, letting her toddle toward a glowing flower. She knows it's safe. Because of you. Rowan glanced at his hands. The purple glow was still there, fainter now but permanent. Part of him. The healers had discovered something remarkable. He wasn't just absorbing Alera's excess magic. He was harmonizing with it, creating a feedback loop that stabilized them both. How are the side effects? Morgalla asked. Manageable. The headache stopped. And I only accidentally levitate things twice a week now. Morgalla's lips quirked. Progress. A comfortable silence settled between them. 6 months ago, Rowan could never have imagined this, standing in a witch garden, making jokes with a queen, raising a magical princess like she was his own. The council's been quiet, he said carefully. Because they have no choice, Morgalla watched Alera play. The treaty with the humans is holding. No attacks in months. And Alera is thriving. They can't argue with results. Vex still hates me. Vex hates everyone. Don't take it personally, Morgalla turned to him. But there's something you should know. The council has proposed a formal ceremony to officially recognize your title and status. Rowan's stomach tightened. Do I have to wear one of those ridiculous hats? Almost certainly. I'll pass. It's not optional, but Morgalla was smiling. You saved the air. Protected the realm. Bridged 2 worlds that were on the brink of war. Like it or not, Rowan Thorn, you're a hero now. I'm just a waiter who got lucky. You're the guardian who chose to stay when anyone else would have run. Morgalla's expression turned serious. That takes more courage than magic ever could. Alera toddled back to them, holding out a flower that glowed soft blue. She offered it to Rowan with a babbling string of syllables that might have been words. For me? Rowan took it gently. Thank you, little spark. She beamed, then turned to Morgalla with arms raised.
Manga.
Morgalla's breath caught. It was the first time Alera had said it clearly. She scooped up her daughter, pressing a kiss to her forehead, and Rowan saw tears glittering in the queen's eyes. That's right, Morgalla whispered.
Manga.
Alera pointed at Rowan.
Ah.
Close enough, he laughed. Kale appeared at the garden entrance. Your Majesty, the delegation from Brindlemark has arrived. They're requesting an audience. Already. Morgalla handed Alera to Rowan. Tell them I'll be there shortly. As Kale left, she adjusted her traveling cloak. Mayor Griggs wants to discuss trade agreements. Apparently, having a human guardian in the witch realm has made us seem more approachable. Glad I could help our international relations by existing. You do it so well, Morgalla smiled, but it faded quickly. Rowan, I need to ask you something. The humans want to see you. Proof that you're safe and here willingly. Would you be comfortable attending the next summit? Rowan thought of Brindlemark, of the silver ladle and old Merrick and the tiny room he used to call home. It felt like another lifetime. Will they believe me, he asked, that I chose this? Does it matter? You know the truth. Yeah, Rowan looked down at Alera, who was trying to eat the glowing flower. He gently redirected her hand.
Yeah, I'll go.
If it helps the peace, I'll do it. Thank you, Morgalla moved toward the palace, then paused. Rowan, I never properly thanked you for everything you've sacrificed. You gave me a home. That's thanks enough. Something soft crossed Morgalla's face. You really mean that, don't you? Every word. She nodded once, regal and composed, then swept away. Rowan sat on the garden bench, Alera settling into his lap. She grabbed his finger, and purple sparks jumped between them, playful now, not dangerous. A conversation in magic he was only beginning to understand. You know what's funny, he told her. 6 months ago, I was nobody. Just another tired waiter in a forgotten town. And now. Alera looked up at him, violet eyes bright with trust and affection. Now I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. A portal shimmered open nearby, one of the permanent gates Morgalla had established between realms. Through it, Rowan could see Brindlemark's main square, bustling with humans and witches trading peacefully side by side. 2 worlds learning to coexist. Because a human waiter heard a baby crying in the rain and decided that one small life mattered more than fear. Alera yawned, snuggling against his chest. Her magic pulsed gently, in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat. Rowan held her close and watched the sun set over the witch realm, his realm now, as much as anywhere had ever been. He'd lost his old life. But he'd found something infinitely better. Purpose, family, home. And in the arms of a baby who'd changed everything, Rowan Thorne discovered that sometimes the greatest magic wasn't power at all. It was choosing to care when the world said you shouldn't. It was staying when leaving would have been easier. It was love, simple, fierce, and utterly transformative. The kind of magic that needed no spells. Only a willing heart.